what the Asia Times calls a woeful response, Myanmar's military junta seized shipments of humanitarian aid from the World Food Program. The shipment of 38 tons of relief goods was meant to alleviate the survivors of last week's deadly cyclone, which killed at least 70,000 and displaced over 1 million people. The government has refused to grant visas to foreign aid workers, as it insists on holding a constitutional referendum, which observers criticize as a fait accompli. To give us further insight, we go to the Real News Network analyst, Pepe Escobar.
The junta in Myanmar is arguably the most vicious military dictatorship in the world today. Compared to them, Saddam Hussein was a saint. So guess what's more important for this junta? Over 1.5 million, perhaps 2 million shocked, traumatized, homeless, and very, very ill Burmese, the victims of Cyclone Nargis, or a referendum on a new constitution decided to strengthen even more their grip on power. The whole world saw when the junta last September forced soldiers to fire against tens of thousands of peaceful monks in Rangoon. While Myanmar anyway is a giant gulag, the repression system is worse than the Stasi in the former East Germany. The repression of the monks was tragic, everybody knows that, but what's happening now, it's beyond tragic. People are dying by the tens of thousands, especially around the Irrawaddy River Delta. That's where Myanmar's rice bowl is. An army of aid workers, meanwhile, sit in Bangkok waiting for visas that may never arrive. The local media in Myanmar, like the tragic comic, in fact, New Light of Myanmar newspaper, they're calling people to, I quote, resist foreign intervention. And meanwhile, government ministers, bureaucrats are talking about, I quote, flourishing disciplined democracy. Anybody in Rangoon, the former capital, who dared to wear a vote no t-shirts, and there were plenty around, they have been arrested. And the Nobel Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi is still under house arrest. Nobody has seen this draft constitution. In Rangoon, you can buy a copy for around $1, but 80% of families in Myanmar, they live on less than $2 a day. They cannot even buy a copy of the new constitution. Burmese exiles in Thailand, they denounced this referendum as, I quote, license to kill. But there's not much the international community can do about it. French Foreign Minister Bernard Kouchner, he said that the UN should invoke its, I quote, responsibility to protect civilians, to force shipment of aid to the victims of the cyclone, whatever the junta says. But for this to happen, we need a serious commitment by the Bush administration. The problem is Dick Cheney and his circle, they're obsessed with the Middle East. But it does not escape many bright minds in Washington, I would say, that huge benefits of the whole world applauding the Pentagon for once for a preemptive humanitarian rescue operation. What about Myanmar's key ally, China? Well, China, so far, they have told the junta to work with the UN and the Red Cross and not against them. Myanmar, in fact, is a colony of China. China has huge oil and gas interests in Myanmar. But it's very hard for China at the moment to ask Myanmar to allow foreign aid workers into the country when China denies foreign human rights workers to go to Tibet. So the question is, will the Bush administration have the courage to demonstrate in practice that the US can be a force for good? Or is this human tragedy, this overwhelming human tragedy in Myanmar, just a sideshow compared to the ghostly war on terror?